Hey guys, so in this video, I want to talk about some cards from the SV era and the Sword and Shield era that I think are still primed to make some moves. Obviously, we've seen a lot of the top SAR and IR cards and alternate art cards have huge moves over the past month and a half, but I think there are some that are still primed to make large adjustments in their prices, and that'll probably happen once people start selling off their gains from the top cards in Sword and Shield and SV era. But before we get into that and talk about the ones I think could make moves, first we have a news article courtesy of pokebeach.com. The Prismatic Evolution Super Premium Collection is going to have 15 booster packs. This is huge. This comes out May 16th. If you guys remember, I said that this was a product that I thought was going to do very well. I was comparing it to the 151 UPCs, and you will have that EV Fruit promo in it, which I think is actually a better looking card, at least in my opinion, than the EV SIR from Prismatic Evolution. So I'm going to be a huge fan of this product, and I'll try and get my hands on it. Obviously, it's going to depend on how much it's going for and stuff like that, but I think long term, this is going to be one of the better products from Prismatic Evolution. So there's a news article. Shout out to PokeBeach for that. And then the other thing, if you see in the thumbnail, I did put a Crown Zenith ETB in there. I think Crown Zenith ETBs could start moving a bit more. They've already had a huge move up from around $70 at the start of January, but the sky's the limit on this set. I just want to throw it in here though, because it has officially eclipsed that $100 price point, and you do actually see some sales from yesterday at $110. Obviously, some a bit lower than that as well, but you do have that potential for it to push that $110 price point in the not so distant future. Now, to get into some of these cards, the first one's going to be a bit out there, right? The Greninja EX from Twilight Masquerade. The reason I threw this card in here is just because it really hasn't done too much since the set released in June. Now, obviously, it's moved probably since the middle of the summer from around 300 to that 330 price point, so a 10% gain, but we've seen a lot of the top chase cards move 40, 50, 60, 100%, right? So I think this card won't move too much, but I did want to throw it in here as a dark horse just because, it's one of the top cards in SV era. People have probably been overlooking it, maybe in part due to a lot of people speculating that Twilight Masquerade is going to get a reprint eventually, and then the price of this card may come down after that consequently. But, it's a card to keep your eye on, right? One of the top cards in SV era. Very interesting artwork. Again, I'm not a huge fan of it, but a lot of people do like it. So keep your eye on this, especially, the PSA 10s of it. The multiples of a lot of these cards are just ridiculous. So that's the first one, which I think is a bit out there. A couple more from SV era. The first one being Sprigatito from Paldea Evolved. Now, Sprigatito's the Gen 9 starter. I can't remember her name, but, the main character in Pokemon Horizons. This is her Pokemon, and it's a very popular one. It's a very cute one. We've seen the meta on a lot of these IR cards, very cutesy cards, double in value. And although Sprigatito has doubled in value over the past year, I think this card could be a $30, $40 card, right? Especially with a lot of the other ones, like the Meryl from, I believe it's Paldea Evolved as well, or Paradox, $30, $35. You have, like the Horsey from Shrouded Fables, what, $25 now? The Plusle from Paradox Rift is $20. Like a lot of these very cutesy cards are seeing growth. So I think just the fact that it's a very cute looking card, it's a nice looking IR, it's a popular Pokemon for the new generation. It's a starter Pokemon. Like all of this, I think this could be a $40 card. Same thing with like the Fuecoco and Quaxley, maybe worth a bit less, but the Fuecoco I believe is $26 right now or something. Like it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these cards move into that $40, $50 range. And yeah, I mean, just the starters in general from Gen 9 and their evolutions. Keep an eye on those. And then the Tyranitar, right, from Paldea Evolved. The reason I threw this one in here, we did see a move up from, $15 earlier last year, I guess, in February, up to around that $45 price point. So it did basically triple in value in a couple months. But we haven't seen a move since then, right? And, the market's in a very different spot now than it was 6 months ago. A lot more people are in the hobby. Tyranitar is a very popular Pokemon. It's a great looking artwork. It would not surprise me if a card like this makes a move into that $75, $80 range, right? And we see an 80, 90% move on it. So those are kind of the three that I wanted to talk about from SV era. And, you can kind of talk about the Sprigatito, but also the other Gen 9 starters and evolution. So before we get into the Sword and Shield cards, I just want to jump in here and say 62.9% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you're getting some value of this content, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe. And again, thank you if you've already done that. I appreciate it a ton. So moving into Sword and Shield, starting off with the Rotom V. And you guys are going to see a trend once we go through a lot of these. They are alternate art cards that haven't reached their, June peak. Back in June, late May, early June, when a lot of these alternate art cards took off, a lot of them have, fallen off since then. But I think just because of the market we're in, because of the quality of the artwork and the card itself, and how difficult it is to pull some of these alternate art cards, I think they should be worth more than what they are. So the Rotom, again, it's June peak, mid-May June peak was around $45. It's now sitting around 30, 33, 34, $35, somewhere in that range. The Beedrill, same sort of thing. We are seeing this one start to bounce back into the mid-30s, but its peak was around $50 back in May. So this card's fallen off a bit. And I actually pulled this card with my girlfriend, and the artwork's really great and the texture on it as well. So, I am a fan of these alternate art cards after seeing them in person. Like, it makes sense why they have value. And again, just because they're strong artworks, they're hard to pull. I think a lot of them could go higher, especially in this market. The Hisuian Lilligant V, not a super popular Pokemon, but again, it's kind of like a cute artwork. You have what is this guy's name, Seal, in here, and a couple other Pokemon. It's kind of a cute looking one. A bit weird, but again, it's an alternate art card that's under $15. So I think just for that reason alone, a lot of these are eventually going to see price movements. Its peak in late May, early June was around $17. Now we have the RCSV from Brilliant Stars, alternate art card, obviously, and I think the Palkia and Dialga from Astral Radiance have made a move already into that $70, $80 range over the past couple days. So I was actually planning to put those in this list, but just because they've already made a big move, I kind of left them out. I think the Arceus is going to follow suit into that $60, $70, $80 range. It would not surprise me, especially considering its peak back when the alt arts took off was around that $60 price point. So again, very popular Pokemon. It's a solid artwork. It would not surprise me if we see this move up sooner rather than later. The Celebi V from Fusion Strike. Now, this one I threw in here just as bias, and it would not surprise me if this card reaches $100. As ridiculous as that sounds, Celebi is a popular Pokemon. It's a very good artwork. It's an alternate art card, which means it's very hard to pull. Fusion Strike's out of print. Obviously, we're not going to get more printed, so it's really just going to be from people opening packs and, pulling this card out. And I think just because of the market we're in, right, the amount of cards that we're seeing hit that $100 threshold, the ones that are even pushing through it at this point, for a Pokemon like this, with an artwork like this, it would not surprise me, even though, it's already pushed through its, June peak when all the alt arts were taking off around $50. We've seen it move up into that $70-ish range over the past month or so. But again, I still think this is one that could go higher potentially. Now, a couple more. These ones are going to be more expensive. The Moltres and Blaziken from Chilling Reign. These are going to be a toss-up, right? And it really depends on how you view a lot of these alternate art cards, their rarity, their pull, how difficult they are to pull, and, the artworks in general, right? I know a lot of people don't like the Blaziken VMAX artwork. Again, I don't mind it. I'm a fan of the Fire Chicken. I actually like the Moltres more just because of the colors. I think, like, the reds and the pinks in this, with, the monotone background is just, it looks really, really good. This card hasn't even reached its peak since June, which was in that 180, 185 range, sitting around, low 170s right now. I think this card could move. Same thing with the Blaziken off its June peak as well, where it broke through $400. Again, it really depends on how you view these cards, but I would not surprise me in this market if eventually these cards move back through that, $400 range, and then maybe even $200 on the Moltres. And then just a couple more here to round out the video. We have the Ice Rider Calyrex V from Chilling Reign. Again, not a popular Pokemon, but it is a full art card, or an alternate art, full art, and it's sitting around, what, $17-ish right now. Its peak in June was $20-ish, so off its peak. It's a cute looking artwork, nice artwork. I like it. And again, it's a cheap alternate art card with these other ones too. The Greedent V, I'm just going to rapid fire through these. The Greedent V from Fusion Strike, it's sub $10, $7.50 right now. I think just for that reason alone, should be more than $10. Luminian V, alternate art, full art from Brilliant Stars, sitting around that $16 range right now. Its peak was around $22, $23 back in June. And then finally, the Galarian Berserker V which is sitting around $17 as well, but it was upwards of 22, 23, maybe even $30 sales on this card back in June. So a lot of these cards have fallen off. I think we're going to see a play into some of them eventually, especially when people start selling their Giratinas, their Gengars, just taking profits in all of them, the Rayquazas, the Umbreons, all of these people are going to try and find other things to move into. And yeah, you guys let me know in the comments down below what you think. If you agree or disagree with any of these, if there are any other cards you're keeping an eye on. I am trying to move into some of these cards and just PSA 10s in general this year. It is really difficult right now to find decent deals, especially on eBay. Everyone's, marking stuff up. So if I find good deals, I will let you guys know eventually once I sell stuff. And my philosophy with this is that, going into this year, and I know that my influence on the market is already very, very minuscule. It's almost irrelevant. But, if I can reduce that in any way, I'm going to try to do it. So if I do buy PSA 10 copies of certain cards, I'm not going to tell anyone until I eventually sell them. Just to try and do everything I possibly can to limit my influence on the market, if that makes sense. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.